So with all the sad, messed up stuff going on with A$AP Rocky and his arrest right now, I wanted to tell everybody a story. This is one of the coolest things that I've ever heard of a super famous musician doing, and I don't think we talk about it enough. So Rocky has always been pretty different when you're comparing him to most other big rappers in the game. When I talk with my friends about him and his music, I always bring up the point that he seems more like a celebrity than he does just a musician. He models, he's been in movies, he did a voiceover for a Marvel mobile game, he's everywhere. And that's the way it's been for almost a decade. He had a huge breakout mixtape and a debut album that brought him even more commercial success, and I think around that time he became much more of just a famous guy than a dude that devotes his life to rapping. Rocky goes with the flow and does whatever he wants to do. Sometimes he'll just be hanging out with models at a fashion show, and then he'll get around to making music when he feels like it. This very relaxed, flexible attitude brings us to Rocky's sophomore album, At Long Last A$AP, or A.L.A. for short. This album had some pretty big songs with Every Day and then LSD. P.S. Go watch that music video if you haven't, it's absolutely gorgeous. But I think the most interesting part about this album is the very eclectic list of people we have on the guest feature list. Everyone from Lil Wayne to Rod Stewart, Kanye West to MIA, and Mos Def to Mark Ronson. But then you look at 5 different tracks on this album, and you see the name Joe Fox. And you start wondering to yourself, who in the world is Joe Fox? So during the recording process for A.L.A., Rocky and his crew were wandering the streets of London late at night. They bump into a guy playing guitar, it's 4 a.m., and this guy asks Rocky and his crew if they want to buy his CD. Rocky's like, well, you have a guitar, so why don't you just play us a song? And the guy starts playing. So this guy that is now playing guitar and singing for A$AP Rocky is Joe Fox, a homeless musician who's been trying to sell CDs and busk in order to get an apartment to live in. Right now you're probably thinking that Joe Fox was over the moon to be looking at A$AP Rocky and playing for him, but no, not at all. Joe Fox had no idea who one of the biggest faces in pop culture was. He was homeless, just trying to make music to survive, so he didn't really have many ways to listen to new music in the first place. Also, Joe was a very old soul. Growing up, he was obsessed with the music of the 60s and the 70s, and he loved how people seemed to live and die by their favorite musicians, and he thought that that magic just kinda went away over time, and he didn't see that same connection nowadays. And so around that time when he was homeless and busking, he didn't really like new musicians anyway. Alright, but back to the story. So Joe Fox finishes playing this song for A$AP Rocky and the producer Hector Delgado, and Joe is like, alright, now do you guys want to buy a CD? And Rocky says no, but we're about to head to the studio, you should come along and tag with us. Hop in the car. Joe agrees, and then they get in the car, and A$AP Rocky has to introduce himself, explain who he is, and that they were recording his second album. So they get to the studio in London, and immediately, everything starts clicking between Joe and all the musicians that were there. So just to show you how cohesive and great this atmosphere was, Rocky was making a song called Max B about the currently incarcerated rapper, and he wanted Joe Fox to write a chorus for it. Joe Fox had no idea who Max B was, so A$AP Rocky told him the story of his life, his career, and how he got arrested, and so then Joe Fox writes this incredible chorus about his feelings just listening to that story, and it ended up being one of the biggest points on the album. For the next few weeks, Joe Fox was just staying with A$AP Rocky, and they would hang out all day and then go to the studio and record all night. Like I mentioned before, Joe Fox is on 5 different tracks on At Long Last A$AP, and I can't remember a time when I saw a musician contribute to an album so much in guest features. This album ended up being very successful for Rocky, critically and commercially, and people loved Joe Fox's stuff, and he played a very significant role in A$AP Rocky's sophomore project. In the following years, Joe went on to release his own singles and EPs, and one of the songs even features Nas, which is insane. You don't really see anyone in A$AP Mob mentioning Joe's name anymore or giving him cosigns. Rocky hasn't worked with him since, but nobody really knows why. There are some rumors that there was a big falling out, but who knows? Maybe they just drifted apart. Whatever the case may be, A$AP Rocky bumping into a homeless musician at 4 a.m. in London, and then featuring him on 5 songs on his platinum-selling album is one of my favorite music stories I've ever heard. Hey, thank you for watching that video. If you want to support the channel, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. You can follow me on social media at RenshawHS. You can buy my merch, support my Patreon, and thank you again. I'll see you soon.